Hi, my name is Raiso. I've been living in Djibouti for the past almost nearly 3 years now, and I've joined African Innovation Week just less than 2 months ago. So in my time here, I've been working as a consultant at Djibouti Business Services, and my work really consisted mostly of corporate services, so helping out other companies, mostly foreign companies, to get set up here. And I've always wanted to do something that would add value to homegrown innovation. And the more that I researched about investment, the more that I researched about impact investing and venture capitalism and all these things, I've realized that we're completely left out, especially as not only as Africans, but even more so as women, black women. And when you look at the statistics, it's like less than 1% for a black woman to receive any kind of funding. And even less so if there's other things intersecting with that, if there's maybe dealing with some disabilities or some other things. And so the reason why I was intrigued with African Innovation Week, it was really so that I could see if there's a way to find funding and really advocate for these startups that are just starting up. I think that's the biggest thing. It's one of the biggest barriers, of course, in every single country, especially in emerging economies, when it comes to startups, is just a lack of access to anything. Lack of access to resources, to information, to accelerator or incubation programs, to funding, which is a big one. And in addition to that, in Djibouti, we also have a language barrier as well, because a lot of these type of, startups or, tech kinds of things are in English, and then the Francophone ones are in like west part of Africa, and, and in this area, we don't really see that. So it was 1 year ago, I happened to be in Addis for another conference, and that's when I saw African Innovation Week, and I started following them on LinkedIn. And we kept in touch, and then I saw that they were looking for ambassadors in Djibouti. And I thought, this could be, the start of something. And at first it was just to promote their event and just to get, startups to take part of the competition. But as my involvement, grew, and as I met the first person who messaged me was Bele, actually. And I actually didn't know him before that, so he messaged me on LinkedIn. We weren't even connected at the time, and he said, actually, I want to get involved, and how do I get involved? So I immediately, got him in, and then they've asked if I could help maybe coordinate other ambassadors as well. I think they saw from maybe my profile or my experience that that was something that I could take on. And so we were also happy to see that we had, Rabia, who had also applied to become an ambassador. So here we are now with an actual team, with being me kind of working with African Innovation Week, but also supporting 2 ambassadors, and then having Bele involved and having Rabia involved. And as from the start of our first meeting, I learned so much, because they are really in that ecosystem of startups. They both have their own startups. I think Rabia has co-founded 2 of them. We know, Bele from the Fab Lab. Not only does he work every single day as a consultant at this Fab Lab to really gauge and inspire other students, and not just students but migrants as well that has access to the space, to inspire them to see what's imaginable, push the boundaries, and see what's possible, right? And so that space is really just about creativity and see that everything there's no limits to that. And then you have Rabia, who is in charge of projects in youth and gender at the CTID, who has experience with regards to more like the marketing side, the pitching side, the training side. And so I could not have asked for better ambassadors to really push this forward. And when we got together, we had the idea of not only registering the startups, immediately we got all of the institutions involved. So, we called in CLE, we called in CTID, we called in the University of Djibouti, we called in all the institutions we could think of, and see, okay, concretely, what can we do, how can we work together? We also called in EDC as well, who is being funded by the USAID. So at the start of this, when we really got together all of these different actors, I don't think people really knew how much of an impact this would have. So it was a bit challenging at first to kind of get people on board, or maybe even get funding and these kinds of things. I usually just do a lot of the background, behind the scenes work. So my job was just to make sure things were flowing correctly, that things were being that we were actually getting the funding and the sponsors that we required for this event, and just really trusting the ambassadors to take the lead on. For example, Rabia took the lead on the panel. We had Beta that took the lead in the trainings and the marketing, and really a huge part of the vision of what we wanted to do here. And turns out that this parallel event that we're having here is the biggest that they've had. So, and it's really exciting coming from the fact that it's a small country. Djibouti is a small country, but with having a huge impact. And even other ambassadors were very impressed, and they were like, wow, this is actually what's happening in Djibouti. Like, they were really, really impressed with how everything came together. And I think that speaks volumes to the community that we have, the kind of support, the proximity that we have to each other. And I'm happy to have been able to contribute to that. I know that, I was able to at least leverage some of, connections and relationships that we've been able to build over the past few years that have come in, handy with, doing something like this. And so I'm happy to also say that you can trust us with your help, with your support, with your sponsorship, with your, whether it's in kind or in material, or with your time, or with your money, to see that we're all volunteers. Like, nobody is over here for any other reason than really wanting to see this through, because this is something we're all equally passionate about. And particularly for me, I think it was really important to show that there are not just young people, but specifically young women. I think that was also a very important thing for me, because until now, I think we see that we still have this struggle and this challenge with regards to gender equity, and at least seeing that there's we have, for example, Oba, who is the director of CLE, in an ecosystem that's traditionally, until now, in many parts of the world, still dominated by men. So I think having a coordinator here, and also having an ambassador who is a woman, and having the majority of the organizing having been, I think, women, has helped a lot. And my role really was to make sure that they understand that we're not just using these startups as props, that we're not having an event for us to gain from and maybe even get notoriety out of it or get funding, and then in the end these startups are just kind of left to dry. That from the beginning we were very intentional with every single thing that we were fighting for, and every single thing that we wanted for them. And when the Salam Center saw that this was getting some buzz and things were, they were attracting a lot of people from the centers, which not a lot of people knew actually where it even was, because when they opened their center, it was immediately after there was COVID, and they couldn't really get that marketing started.
anagoo isku dayaynay in aan garab siino iyo fursad u helaan meesha isku baran lahaayeen, aqoontoodii iyo xirfadda ay leeyihiin ay soo bandhigi lahaayeen. Salam Group badaan ahnay iyo Salam Center dhinaca training iyo waxbarashada, markaas waxaan u taagnahay dhalinyarada Djibouti inaan garab istaagno haddii u baahan yihiin mucaawano dhinaca oo aqoontii si loogu kordhin lahay. Salam Center waxay u diyaarisay environment oo loogu talagalay biyo ay ku heli karaan wax kasta loogu talagalay waxbarasho, haddii tahay internetka xawaarigiisa sareeyay, haddii tahay macallimiintii oo bari lahaayeen luqad kasta ku bixinayeen waxbarashadaas, haddii tahay Faransiiska, haddii tahay Ingiriiska iyo luqada kale Carabiga. Sidaas oo kaleeto barnaamijkan waxa uu qayb galnay in aan abaalmarin aan ku siino dhalinyarada barnaamijkan ka soo qayb galay inaan sanadka soo socdo dhan insha Allah tacaala waxbarasho training oo for free ah inaan siino si aan ugu kabno mehradooda iyo skillsiga ay qaadan lahaayeen.
So I think this was a huge boost for them, and they came over and we said, you know, how can we support you? And I mean, I made sure not to hold back, and I said, you know, concretely what I felt like we could do for them to support us, including financially.
Event-kana maanta wuxuu ahaa runtii event aad u wanaagsan, la rabay waqtigiisii yimiday, ujeedaduna ay ka dambaysana ay tahay sidii loo dardargelin lahaa in dhalinyaradeenu maskaxaha badan ee afkaarta badan ee hayaan ay soo bandhigaan laguna garab galo. Marka waxaan filaynaa insha Allah si khayr qaba waa u dhacday, halka in laga sii wado, dadaalku waa dheer yahay, waa si la gaari karaa. Marka waxay u baahan tahay iyadoo la isku duuban yahay dadkana la garab joogo, hadday anaka tahay iyo haddii wixii kalena lamidaba ay tahay, in horumarka wuxuu ku jiraa dhalinta oo la tayeeyo, la xoogeeyo, taasaa wadanka iyo dalkaba u wada wanaagsan. waxaan filaynaa inay bilow fiican tahay, halkaana lagaga sii hayo.
Because I think I use this word a lot, I use this phrase a lot. I don't believe in free labor. I think that if you commit to something, you need to put your money where your mouth is, especially when you're an institution with, you know, with that kind of capacity. So I was very happy to see that they were immediately very, you know, welcoming and very much in line with, you know, that philosophy. So I look, and I'm also very happy to see that all these youths kind of know that this wasn't another just event for us to make a name for ourselves and then we leave them out. They understood and they have built this rapport and this trust in a very short amount of time, and we look forward to continue that and to work alongside in collaboration with anybody who would like to help. So thank you for this opportunity. And I also want to make sure to personally thank you as well for being a media partner, because I know that you also didn't really hesitate at first. I know how busy you are, and whenever we needed you for some coverage, like, you were on it. So thank you, honestly.